What if I told you that death may take everything from you and still fail to break your deepest attachment? Your body will be left behind. Your money will belong to someone else. Your name will slowly disappear from the world. Even the people you love cannot follow you forever. But the Vedic teachings reveal something far more mysterious. What you spend your life desperately holding on to may leave a mark on consciousness that death itself does not simply erase. And here is the frightening part. The attachment that follows you may not be the person, possession, or dream you think it is. It may be something hidden much deeper within you. Stay until the final lesson, because once you discover what is truly saying, "This is mine," you may understand why the Vedas placed freedom from attachment at the very heart of liberation. 1. Death takes what you own, but not what has taken root within you. Look around the room you are sitting in. Almost everything around you belongs to someone. A chair, a phone, a piece of clothing, a house, a photograph, a car, money in a bank account. We spend most of our lives putting one small word in front of these things. Mine, my house, my money, my family, my career, my reputation, my body, my life. We say mine so often that after some time we start feeling as if these things truly belong to us forever. But they do not. We are only holding them for a while. Time gave them to us, and one day time will take them back. This is easy to understand with the mind, but much harder to accept with the heart. Because we do not just use things, we attach meaning to them. A house becomes safety, money becomes power, beauty becomes value, a career becomes importance, a relationship becomes identity, a good reputation becomes proof that we matter. And slowly, something changes. We are no longer simply enjoying these things. We begin depending on them. We need them to feel complete. We need them to tell us who we are. That is where attachment begins. And death reveals this truth in the clearest way. A rich person cannot carry money beyond death. A successful person cannot take a title with them. A beautiful person cannot stop the body from growing old. A powerful person cannot order death to stay away. A famous person cannot take their followers with them. Everything outside us reaches a point where it must remain behind. But the Vedic teachings ask a deeper question. If the thing disappears, does the attachment inside you also disappear? Imagine someone who spends 40 years thinking about money, not just earning it, but worrying about it, comparing themselves because of it, judging others by it, fearing losing it, believing their worth depends on how much they have. The money is outside them, but the craving is inside. And 40 years of craving can leave a deep mark. It can shape the mind. It can shape habits. It can shape reactions. It can even shape the way a person sees the world. Vedic thought speaks about deep impressions left by repeated thoughts, actions, and desires. You do not need difficult words to understand this. Imagine walking across the same patch of grass once. Nothing happens. Walk across it every day, and soon a path appears. The mind works the same way. Think one angry thought, and it may pass. Feed anger every day, and anger becomes familiar. Feel jealousy once, and it may disappear. Feed jealousy for years, and the mind begins to return to it automatically. Desire something once, and it may fade. But think about it every morning. Imagine it every night. Build your whole life around it, and that desire starts creating a path inside you. Then one day, the thing can disappear, but the path remains. We can already see this in ordinary life. A relationship ends, the person is gone. But 10 years later, someone is still emotionally living in that relationship. The person left. The attachment stayed. Someone loses an important job. The office is gone. The title is gone. But years later, they are still telling everyone who they used to be. The job ended. The identity stayed. Someone is betrayed once. The moment lasts only a short time, but 30 years later, they are still replaying the same pain in their mind. The event ended. The wound stayed alive. This is why leaving something physically is not always the same as being free from it. You can live far away from someone and still think about them every day. You can own very little and still be full of greed. You can live alone and still be surrounded by memories. You can even leave the world behind and still be attached to being seen as wise or spiritual. This is why the Vedic path is not simply about walking away from people or possessions. It is about understanding what they created inside you. Because changing your surroundings does not always change your heart. You can leave the stage and still carry the role inside you. You can lose the object and still carry the desire. You can lose the person and still carry the attachment. You can lose the moment and still carry the pain. This is why your everyday thoughts matter so much. Every thought you repeat is teaching your mind something. Every habit is strengthening something. Every desire you feed is becoming stronger. You are not just passing through your days. You are building your inner world. Every day, you are teaching your mind where to return, and whatever you return to again and again slowly starts to feel like home. So tonight, ask yourself one simple question. If everything outside me disappeared, what would still be alive inside me? Would anger still be there? Would jealousy still be there? Would fear still be there? Would I still need someone's approval? Would I still be carrying an old wound? Would I still be chasing something I never truly needed? Because maybe the deepest danger is not that death takes everything away. Maybe the deeper danger is reaching the end of life and realizing that while your hands were holding the world, your heart was quietly being chained by it. And the Vedic warning is simple. Do not wait until death to learn how to let go. Start becoming free while you are still alive. 2. What you cannot release in life may become what pulls you beyond it. There is a big difference between wanting something and being controlled by it. You can want love, you can want success, you can want money, you can want respect, you can want a better life. There is nothing wrong with that. Desire is part of being human. But the real question is this: what happens inside you when life says no? That is where attachment reveals itself. If you want something and do not receive it, can you still remain peaceful? Can you still move forward? Can you still feel that your life has meaning? Or does everything inside you begin to fall apart? That is the moment when desire stops being simple. It becomes a chain. Attachment rarely looks dangerous in the beginning. It does not come and say, "I am here to control your life." It usually sounds much softer. "I just need this one thing. I just need this person. I just need this dream to happen. I just need people to understand me. I just need to prove myself." And slowly, one desire becomes the center of your life. You begin telling yourself, "I will be happy when I get this, when they choose me, when I become successful, when I have enough money, when people respect me, when I finally prove them wrong." And without realizing it, you place your happiness in the future. Not here, not now, always later. But there is a problem. The mind often does not stop after receiving what it wanted. You get the money, and then you fear losing it. You get the relationship, and then you fear losing the person. You get attention, and then you need more attention. You become successful, and then someone else's success makes you uncomfortable. You finally reach the goal, and another goal appears. The object changes. The hunger stays. This is why getting what you want does not always make you free. Sometimes it makes the desire stronger. Think of fire. If you keep throwing wood into it, the fire does not say, "That is enough." It burns bigger. Some desires work the same way. The more you feed them, the more they ask from you. And this is why the Vedic teachings ask us to look deeply at desire. Not because desire is always bad, but because repeated desire can shape the direction of the mind. What you keep wanting, you keep thinking about. What you keep thinking about, you keep giving your attention to. What you keep giving attention to slowly becomes part of your inner world, and after enough time, it begins to guide you. Imagine someone who spends years wanting revenge. At first, they only want justice. Then they start thinking about the person every day. They imagine what they would say. They imagine that person suffering. They replay the past. They keep the wound alive. Years pass. The original event ended long ago, but revenge has now become part of their mind. The person who hurt them may have moved on, but inside they are still tied to that person. Now imagine someone who spends years chasing approval. Every decision becomes about what others will think. Every success needs applause. Every mistake feels unbearable. Every criticism feels like an attack. At first, they wanted people to like them. Later, they needed people to like them. And eventually, they no longer knew how to feel valuable without someone else confirming it. That is how desire becomes bondage. This is why the Vedic idea is so serious. The mind is always learning where to go. Every day you are training it. If you train it to chase, it learns chasing. If you train it to fear, it learns fear. If you train it to compare, it learns comparison. If you train it to hold on, it learns attachment. And if the mind has spent an entire lifetime moving in one direction, why would it suddenly become completely different at the end? This is where the ancient teachings connect life with death in a very powerful way. The final moment does not come from nowhere. It is connected to the way you have lived. The mind you carry at the end is the mind you have been shaping every day. If you spend years feeding anger, anger becomes familiar. If you spend years feeding fear, fear becomes familiar. If you spend years feeding greed, greed becomes familiar. If you spend years feeding love, peace, truth and awareness, those qualities also become familiar. Your repeated inner state becomes like a road. The more you walk on it, the easier it becomes to walk there again. So imagine your consciousness like a river. Every thought is a drop. Every desire is a drop. Every habit is a drop. One drop does not decide the whole direction, but thousands of drops flowing the same way create a current, and that current becomes powerful. The Vedic warning is not meant to make you afraid. It is meant to make you aware, because if you can shape the current, you can change the direction. You do not have to stop loving. You do not have to stop dreaming. You do not have to stop wanting a better life. But you must learn one important thing. Want without becoming a slave to what you want. Love without making another person responsible for your whole happiness. Work hard without turning success into your identity. Enjoy money without allowing money to define your worth. Hope for good things without believing your life is meaningless if they do not happen. This is real inner strength. To be able to say, I deeply want this, but I will not lose myself if life chooses differently. That is freedom. And this kind of freedom must be practiced while you are alive. You cannot wait until everything is leaving your hands to learn how to release. Practice now. When a plan fails, release the belief that your life is over. When someone walks away, release the belief that your value left with them. When people misunderstand you, release the need to control every opinion. When success comes, enjoy it without building your whole identity around it. When something beautiful enters your life, love it deeply, but remember that nothing in this world stays unchanged forever. This does not make life less beautiful. It makes life more precious. A flower is beautiful because it does not last forever. A sunset matters because it disappears. A conversation becomes valuable because one day there will be a final conversation. The people you love become more precious when you remember that time is moving. Impermanence is not here to make you afraid. It is here to teach you how to love without clinging. So ask yourself, what am I most afraid of losing? A person? Money? Beauty? Status? Control? A dream? A reputation? Your answer may reveal your deepest attachment. And then ask one more question. If this disappeared tomorrow, would I still know who I am? If the answer is no, then the attachment may be deeper than you think. The goal is not to throw everything away. The goal is to stop giving temporary things permanent power over your inner world. Because what you cannot release can quietly begin to direct you. And according to the Vedic way of seeing life, the direction you strengthen again and again may matter far beyond one passing moment. So do not only ask, what do I want? Ask, what is this desire turning me into? That question can change your life. 3. Your deepest desires are quietly shaping where your consciousness goes. There is something happening inside you every day that almost nobody notices. Your mind is choosing a direction, not once, not through one big decision, but through thousands of small thoughts. What you think about when you wake up, what you think about when you are alone, what your mind returns to when everything becomes quiet, what you secretly want, what you constantly fear, what you cannot stop remembering. All of these things are slowly teaching your consciousness where to go. And this is why your attention is far more powerful than it seems. Whatever you repeatedly give attention to begins taking up more space inside you. Think about someone who is deeply jealous. At first, jealousy may appear only for a moment. They see another person's success and feel uncomfortable. Then they begin comparing. Why do they have that? Why not me? What makes them better? The comparison continues. Soon they begin checking what other people are doing. Who has more money? Who looks better? Who is more successful? Who receives more attention? Nothing outside may have changed, but their inner world has changed completely. Their mind has learned comparison. Now it looks for reasons to compare. The same thing happens with fear. You worry about something once, then again, then tomorrow, then next week. Soon the mind begins searching for danger even when nothing is wrong. A small problem feels enormous. A delay feels like disaster. Silence feels like rejection. Uncertainty feels unbearable. The mind has practiced fear so often that fear becomes its natural direction. But the opposite is also possible. Someone who practices gratitude begins noticing things other people ignore. The quiet morning, a meal, someone's kindness, a healthy moment, a conversation, a second chance. The world did not suddenly become perfect. Their attention changed. And when attention changes, experience changes. This is why the Vedic teachings place such importance on the inner life, because you are not simply experiencing the world. You are constantly training the mind that experiences it. Every thought you repeatedly feed is teaching your mind, come back here. And eventually, the mind does, automatically. This is where desire becomes especially powerful. A desire begins as something small. I want this. But then you imagine it. You think about it. You picture how your life would change if you had it. You begin noticing people who already have it. Then comparison enters. Then impatience. Then fear. What if I never get it? Now the desire is no longer simply something you want. It has become something your mind revolves around. Maybe it is money. Maybe it is marriage. Maybe it is fame. Maybe it is beauty. Maybe it is success. Maybe it is one particular person. Maybe it is revenge. Maybe it is the need to finally prove yourself. And sometimes the thing you believe you want is not even the real desire. This is where you have to look deeper. Someone may say, I want to be rich. But perhaps what they really want is to feel safe. Someone may say, I want to be famous. But perhaps what they really want is to feel important. Someone may say, I need this person back. But perhaps what they really want is to feel chosen again. Someone may say, I need them to apologize. But perhaps what they really want is proof that their pain mattered. Someone may say, "I need to prove everyone wrong." But perhaps they are still trying to heal the feeling that they were never good enough. The outer desire is only the surface. Underneath it, there is often another hunger, and until you understand that deeper hunger, you may spend years chasing the wrong thing. Imagine someone who desperately wants success because they believe success will finally make them feel worthy. They work, they struggle, they sacrifice. Eventually, they succeed. People admire them, money comes, recognition comes, but after some time, the old emptiness returns. Why? Because success answered the wrong question. The real question was never, "Can I become successful?" The real question was, "Why did I believe I was worthless without success?" This is why some people receive everything they once dreamed about and still feel empty. The outside changed. The inner wound did not. So they chase something bigger. More money, more attention, more achievement, more praise. The mind keeps saying, "Maybe the next thing will finally make me complete." But completion never arrives, because no external achievement can permanently heal an identity built around inner lack. This is why Vedic wisdom repeatedly turns attention inward, not because the outer world does not matter, but because the inner world decides what the outer world means to you. Two people can have the same amount of money. One feels grateful, the other feels poor because someone else has more. Two people can be alone. One experiences peace, the other experiences rejection. Two people can receive criticism. One learns, the other spends 3 days angry. The event is similar. The consciousness receiving the event is different, and that difference has been built over time. This is the part many people miss. You are practicing something every day, even when you believe you are doing nothing. Every time you replay an insult, you practice resentment. Every time you compare yourself, you practice dissatisfaction. Every time you imagine disaster, you practice fear. Every time you need someone else's approval before trusting yourself, you practice dependence. Every time you refuse to release the past, you practiced attachment. But you can also practice something else. Every time you observe anger without immediately acting from it, you practice awareness. Every time you allow someone else's success without feeling smaller, you practice freedom. Every time you forgive without needing revenge, you loosen an old chain. Every time you accept that something has ended, you teach the mind how to release. Every time you return your attention to what truly matters, you create a different path. This is why small inner choices are not small. They are shaping the person you are becoming. Think of your mind like a field. Whatever you water grows. If you constantly water fear, fear grows. If you water jealousy, jealousy grows. If you water anger, anger grows. If you water greed, greed grows. But if you water peace, peace grows. If you water compassion, compassion grows. If you water awareness, awareness grows. If you water wisdom, wisdom grows. You cannot spend years watering one thing and then be surprised when that is what fills the garden. And this brings us to the deeper Vedic question. If consciousness does not simply become meaningless at death, then what kind of consciousness are you preparing? This is not about becoming frightened of every thought. One bad thought does not define you. One angry moment does not decide your entire path. One desire does not make you trapped. The deeper issue is repetition. What do you keep returning to? That is what matters. Imagine a river flowing down a mountain. At first, the water may move across many small paths. But over time, one path becomes deeper. More water begins flowing through it. The deeper it becomes, the easier it is for the water to follow that same direction. Your mind can become like that. Every repeated thought deepens a path. Every repeated desire deepens a path. Every repeated reaction deepens a path. Eventually, you do not even have to choose it consciously. The mind goes there by itself. This is why you can sometimes promise yourself, I will not think about this anymore. And 5 minutes later, you are thinking about it again. The path is already there. You trained it. But here is the hopeful part. A path that was learned can slowly be changed. You do not have to remain trapped in the direction your mind has been following. Awareness creates a choice. When jealousy appears, you can see it. When anger appears, you can see it. When craving appears, you can see it. When the old memory appears, you can see it. And instead of immediately feeding it, you can allow it to pass. At first, this feels difficult, because the old path is strong. But each time you choose differently, something changes. A new path begins. This is spiritual practice in everyday life. Not only sitting somewhere with closed eyes, not only reading sacred texts, not only speaking beautiful words. It is watching where your consciousness goes and choosing carefully what deserves to be fed. Because your attention is your life. Whatever receives your attention receives a piece of your limited time, and whatever repeatedly receives your attention begins shaping your inner world. So ask yourself something very simple. When nothing is demanding my attention, where does my mind naturally go? Does it return to fear? To money? To another person? To an old wound? To comparison? To regret? To fantasy? To anger? To the need to prove something? Or does it return to peace? To truth? To gratitude? To awareness? To something deeper than the temporary noise of life? Do not judge the answer, just notice it. Because where your mind goes, when nobody is watching, may reveal what has the strongest hold on you. And that may be one of the deepest messages hidden inside the Vedic teachings. Do not wait until the final moment of life to wonder where your consciousness is going. Look at where it goes today. Look at where it goes when you wake up. Look at where it goes when you are hurt. Look at where it goes when you are afraid. Look at where it goes when you are completely alone. Because the direction you repeat today may become the path you find easiest to follow tomorrow. Your deepest desire is not only asking you to chase something, it is quietly teaching your consciousness where to return. So choose carefully what you allow to become home inside you. 4. The person you cannot forget may not be the true attachment. There may be someone you still think about. Maybe they left years ago. Maybe you no longer speak. Maybe they have completely moved on. Maybe your life has moved forward too. But somewhere inside you, they are still there. A memory suddenly brings them back. A song, a place, a certain time of year, a familiar smell, a sentence someone says. And for a few seconds, something you thought was gone becomes alive again. Their face returns, their voice returns, the old conversations return. And sometimes, so does the pain. When an attachment survives for years, it is easy to believe, there must be something special about this person. Why else can I not forget them? Why do I still feel something after all this time? Why does my mind keep returning to them? But there is a deeper question. What if the person is not what you are truly attached to? What if you are attached to what they made you feel? This difference is extremely important. Maybe they made you feel chosen. Maybe they made you feel beautiful. Maybe they made you feel important. Maybe they made you feel understood. Maybe they gave you a feeling of safety you had never experienced before. Maybe around them, you became a version of yourself that you loved. Then they disappeared. And suddenly, that version of you disappeared too. Now you believe you miss the person. But perhaps part of you misses who you were when they were there. That is why certain people can remain inside the mind for so long. You are not always holding on to them. Sometimes you are holding on to yourself through them. Think about this. Perhaps before meeting someone, you felt invisible. Then they noticed you. They listened. They wanted you. For the first time in a long time, you felt special. Then the relationship ended. What disappeared? The person, yes. But something else disappeared too. The feeling of being chosen. So now the mind keeps returning to them because it wants that feeling back. Or maybe they made you feel safe. You believed, this is the person I will build my future with. You imagined a home, a family, mornings together, growing older together. You created years of life inside your imagination. Then the relationship ended. And suddenly, you were not only losing a person, you were losing a future that had already become real inside your mind. This is why some endings hurt far more than the actual relationship might explain. You were grieving things that never even happened. The wedding that never happened, the home that was never built, the trips that were never taken, the conversations you thought you would have, the years you imagined sharing. The future existed inside you, and when the person left, that future died too. So the heart keeps returning to them, not always because they were meant to remain, but because the mind has not accepted the death of the future it created. This is one of the most hidden forms of attachment. We can become attached to something that never existed, not a memory, but a possibility, not what happened, but what could have happened. And sometimes, what could have been becomes harder to release than what actually was, because reality has limits. Imagination does not. In imagination, the relationship could have become perfect. In imagination, they eventually understood you. In imagination, everything worked out. In imagination, you received the ending you wanted. And because that imagined future was never tested by reality, the mind can keep making it beautiful. This is why people sometimes miss a relationship that was actually painful. They do not miss every real moment. They miss the possibility they once saw inside it. They miss the person they hoped the other person would become. They miss the future they kept waiting for. And when you understand this, something becomes clearer. You may not need to forget the person. You may need to release the future you attach to them. There is another kind of attachment that is even harder to see. Sometimes you are not holding on because you still love them. You are holding on because they hurt you. Someone betrayed you. Someone rejected you. Someone walked away without explaining. Someone made you feel as if you were not enough. Years later, you may not even want them back, but you still want something from them. An apology, an explanation, regret. You want them to understand what they did. You want them to see your value. You want them to realize what they lost. You want life to prove that you mattered. And until that happens, part of your mind refuses to close the door. You tell yourself, I just want closure. But sometimes closure secretly means, I need them to give me something before I allow myself to be free. Think about how much power that gives another person. They may be living their life, sleeping peacefully, laughing, growing, changing. Perhaps they rarely think about what happened, yet every night you are still having conversations with them inside your head. You explain yourself, you argue, you imagine what you should have said. You imagine them returning. You imagine them apologizing. You imagine proving them wrong. The relationship ended in the outside world, but inside your mind it is still happening. That is attachment, and it can be stronger than physical closeness, because a person does not need to be standing beside you to control your inner world. They only need to remain alive inside your attention. This is why letting go is not weakness. Sometimes letting go is the moment you finally take your life back. You are saying, you no longer need to understand me for me to heal. You no longer need to apologize for me to become peaceful. You no longer need to regret losing me for me to know my worth. I will not wait for your mind to change before I allow my heart to become free. That is powerful. And notice something important. Letting go does not mean saying, you meant nothing. It can mean, you mattered deeply, but I release what is over. It does not mean, I never loved you. It means, I will not turn love into a prison. It does not mean, I have forgotten everything. It means, I can remember without living there. That is the difference between memory and attachment. Memory says, this happened. Attachment says, this must continue controlling who I am. And this is where the Vedic idea of non-attachment becomes beautiful. Non-attachment does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean avoiding relationships. It does not mean refusing to love anyone because you fear losing them. Real non-attachment means loving without trying to own. You can care deeply for someone without saying, you must remain exactly as I need you to be. You can love someone without making them responsible for your entire happiness. You can enjoy their presence without believing your existence becomes meaningless without them. Love says, I am grateful you are here. Attachment says, you are not allowed to leave. Love says, I want what is truly good for you. Attachment says, I want you to remain what I need. Love can breathe. Attachment grips. Love sees another human being. Attachment sees something it cannot afford to lose. And the tighter you hold someone, the more fear enters the relationship. Now you fear their silence. You fear distance. You fear change. You fear someone else becoming important to them. You fear losing your place. And little by little, fear begins wearing the clothes of love. But fear and love are not the same. Love can exist without ownership. And perhaps that is one of the hardest lessons human beings must learn. Every person you love is also moving through time. Your parents are changing. Your children are changing. Your friends are changing. Your partner is changing. You are changing. No relationship stays exactly the same forever. Even the longest and most beautiful relationship eventually meets physical separation. That sounds painful, but it does not make love meaningless. It makes love precious. A flower does not become worthless because it eventually fades. A sunset is not meaningless because darkness comes after it. A beautiful moment is not false because it ended. So why do we believe a relationship must last forever before it can have meaning? Some people may walk beside you for most of your life. Some may remain for only a few years. Some may stay for one season. Some may enter your life long enough to show you something about yourself. And then their path moves somewhere else. The mind asks, why did they leave? But sometimes the more useful question is, what did their presence reveal inside me? Did they reveal your fear of being alone, your need to be chosen, your fear of rejection, your hunger for approval, your inability to trust yourself, your tendency to lose your identity inside another person? If so, perhaps the relationship gave you something deeper than permanence. It gave you a mirror. And once the mirror has shown you what needs healing, you do not need to carry the mirror forever. You need to understand what you saw. So if there is someone you cannot forget, do not immediately ask, why am I still connected to them? Ask, what am I still trying to receive from them? Love? Approval? An apology? A feeling of being chosen? Proof that you mattered? The future you imagined? The person you used to be around them? Then ask an even deeper question. Can I give myself permission to become free even if I never receive it? That question can break a chain you have carried for years, because sometimes you do not need one final conversation. You need one final decision. The decision that your peace will no longer depend on someone who is no longer walking beside you. Remember them if the memory comes. Honor what was beautiful, learn from what was painful, be grateful for what was real. But do not turn yesterday into the place where your consciousness lives. The person you cannot forget may not be your deepest attachment. Your deepest attachment may be the feeling, identity, wound, or future you connected to them. And when you finally see what you are truly holding, you may discover that letting go does not mean losing them again. It means finally finding the part of yourself that you thought left with them. 5. The last attachment to die is the I that still says, "This is mine." Now we come to the deepest attachment of all. You can let go of money. You can let go of status. You can let go of an old relationship. You can forgive someone who hurt you. You can stop chasing approval. You can even learn to control many of your desires. And still, one attachment may remain. It is so close to you that you may never have thought of it as an attachment. It is the voice that keeps saying, my body, my money, my family, my success, my pain, my memories, my beliefs, my reputation, my future, my life. Behind almost every attachment stands the same quiet idea, this belongs to me. And behind that idea stands an even deeper question. Who is the me that keeps claiming everything? This is where Vedic wisdom becomes much more than advice about letting go. It begins asking you to look at the person who is trying to let go. You say, "This is my body." But stop for a moment. If you can say my body, then who is aware of the body? Your body has changed throughout your life. The body you had when you were 5 years old is gone. The body you had as a teenager changed. Your face changed. Your height changed. Your cells changed. Your strength changed. One day, your body will change even more. Yet through all those changes, you have continued saying, I. Then you say, my thoughts. But thoughts change even faster. A thought appears. It stays for a moment. Then another thought replaces it. Sometimes you believe one thing today and something completely different 10 years later. So if your thoughts keep changing, are you only your thoughts? You say, my emotions. But emotions also come and go. You can wake up feeling peaceful. By afternoon, something makes you angry. By evening, you may be laughing. Fear comes, fear goes. Sadness comes, sadness goes. Joy comes, joy goes. But something inside you knows, I am angry, I am afraid, I am happy, I am sad. The emotion changes, yet awareness is there to notice the change. The ancient Vedic sages became deeply interested in this. They began asking, what is it that knows the changing body? What is it that sees thoughts appearing? What is it that notices emotions coming and going? What is present before a thought appears and still present after the thought disappears? This inquiry led toward one of the deepest ideas in the Upanishadic traditions. The deeper self, often called Atman, is not simply the temporary personality you normally call me. The personality has a name, a history, a story, likes, dislikes, successes, failures, wounds, dreams, but all of those things change. Your name was given to you. Your beliefs were learned. Your personality developed. Your memories were created through experience. Your roles appeared over time, but awareness was there to experience all of them. This is why the sages did not simply ask, what do you have? They asked, who are you? And that question is much harder. Most people answer it by describing things that can disappear. I am successful. What happens when success disappears? I am beautiful. What happens when beauty changes? I am powerful. What happens when power is taken away? I am someone's husband. I am someone's wife. I am someone's parent. These relationships may be deeply meaningful, but what happens when the role changes? I am respected. What happens when someone criticizes you? I am wealthy. What happens if the money disappears? If your entire identity is built from things that can change, then every change feels like a threat. This is why the ego fears loss so deeply. It is not always afraid of losing the thing itself. It is afraid of losing the identity connected to the thing. Imagine someone who has spent their entire life becoming important. People know their name. People listen when they speak. They have status. They have authority. They walk into a room and people notice. Then age comes. They retire. Someone younger takes their position. The phone rings less often. People stop asking for their opinion. Suddenly, they feel invisible. Why does it hurt so much? Because they did not only lose a position, they lost the version of themselves that the position created. The ego says, if I am no longer important to them, who am I? This is attachment to identity, and it can be stronger than attachment to any physical object. The same thing can happen with beauty. Someone may spend decades believing, my beauty is my value. Then the body changes. Age comes, the mirror changes. Suddenly, they feel that something essential has been taken from them. But beauty was never the deepest self. It was a temporary quality of a temporary body. The same happens with money, reputation, relationships, achievements, even suffering. Yes, you can become attached to suffering. Someone hurts you. Years pass, but the story remains. I am the person who was betrayed. I am the person nobody loved. I am the person life treated unfairly. At first, the pain is something you experienced. Later, it becomes something you use to describe yourself. Eventually, letting go of the pain feels strange, because without the pain, who would you be? This is why some wounds survive much longer than the event that created them. The wound has become part of the identity, and the ego would sometimes rather keep familiar pain than enter an unknown freedom, because freedom requires a new answer to the question, who am I without this story? That is where the spiritual path becomes difficult. You may say you want freedom, but are you willing to release the identity built from your chains? You may say you want peace, but are you willing to stop being the person who must prove everyone wrong? You may say you want to heal, but are you willing to live without constantly returning to the wound? You may say you want to let go, but are you willing to stop defining yourself by what you lost? The deepest letting go is not always releasing something from your hands. Sometimes it is releasing an old version of yourself from your mind, and this brings us back to death. Death is the final challenge to everything the ego calls mine. My house remains behind. My money remains behind. My possessions remain behind. My title remains behind. My social position remains behind. Even my body is left behind. Death slowly removes every label the ego spent a lifetime collecting, and that is why the thought of death can feel so frightening. It does not only threaten what we have, it threatens who we think we are. The ego asks, if all of this disappears, what will remain of me? And perhaps that is exactly the question the Vedic sages wanted us to ask before death arrives. Not at the final breath, now, while you can still sit quietly, while you can still observe your mind, while you can still question the identity you have built. Ask yourself, who am I without my job? Who am I without my reputation? Who am I without my possessions? Who am I without another person's approval? Who am I without the story of what happened to me? Who am I without the roles I play? Who am I without the thoughts constantly passing through my mind? Do not rush to answer. Perhaps the silence after the question is more important than the words you could give, because the mind wants another label. I am this. I am that. But the Vedic inquiry asks you to go deeper than labels. You are aware of the label. You are aware of the thought. You are aware of the emotion. You are aware of the memory. You are aware of the body. So what is this awareness? This is not something you need to solve in one moment. It is something to explore. And perhaps this is why the sages spent so much time in silence. They were not running away from life. They were looking beneath the noise of identity, because everyday life constantly tells you what you are. Your job gives you a title. Your family gives you a role. Society gives you a status. Other people give you opinions. Your past gives you a story. Your mind collects all of these pieces and says, this is me, but every piece can change. So perhaps your deepest nature cannot be found in what changes. This realization changes the way you hold life. You can still have possessions, but possessions no longer need to prove your worth. You can still be successful, but success no longer has to tell you who you are. You can still love people deeply, but you no longer need to own them. You can still enjoy your body, but you understand that the body is moving through time. You can still build a beautiful life, But you stop asking temporary things to give you a permanent identity. Then something powerful begins to happen. You become easier to change. You become easier to forgive. You become less afraid of what people think. You become less desperate to win every argument. You become less frightened when life moves in a direction you did not plan. Why? Because not every change feels like an attack on who you are. Someone criticizes you. You listen. Maybe they are right. Maybe they are wrong. But their opinion does not become your identity. Someone leaves. You grieve. You miss them. But you do not conclude, I am nothing without them. A plan fails. You feel disappointed. But you do not say, my life is over. Your appearance changes. You notice it. But you do not believe your value disappeared with youth. Success comes. You enjoy it. Success leaves. You remain. This is freedom, not becoming emotionless, not pretending nothing hurts, not acting as though nothing matters. Real freedom is much more beautiful. It means everything can matter without everything becoming mine. You can love life deeply without trying to own life. You can appreciate people without trying to freeze them in place. You can enjoy moments without demanding that they last forever. You can hold things gently. This may be one of the greatest lessons attachment can teach us. Look at your hand. Imagine holding sand. If you keep your hand open, the sand rests there. But if you become afraid of losing it and squeeze tightly, the sand begins slipping through your fingers. Human beings often do the same thing with life. We become afraid of losing something, so we grip harder. We control. We worry. We become jealous. We become possessive. We become anxious. And the very act of trying to protect happiness destroys our ability to enjoy it. The Vedic path offers another way. Hold life with an open hand. Care for what comes. Protect what deserves protection. Love what is here. Give your full presence. But remember, nothing in form was promised forever. One day, every hand opens. The question is whether your heart has learned to open before that day. And this is where death becomes more than an ending. Death becomes a teacher. Every ending in your life is a small lesson. A friendship ends. Life whispers, do not cling. A season passes. Life whispers, everything changes. Your body grows older. Life whispers, you are not this form forever. Someone you love leaves. Life whispers, love cannot always mean possession. A dream fails. Life whispers, you are greater than one outcome. Again and again, life is teaching you how to release. But most of us resist the lesson. We keep saying, mine, 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 until eventually life says, now let go. So perhaps the real purpose of detachment is not to prepare you for losing everything. It is to show you that your deepest self was never contained inside the things you were afraid to lose. This is why the final attachment is so difficult to see. It is not the house. It is the one saying, my house. It is not the money. It is the one saying, my money. It is not even the relationship. It is the identity saying, without this person, I am incomplete. Behind every chain stands an idea about who you are. And when that idea is questioned, the chain begins to loosen. So before this lesson ends, ask yourself one final question. Not, what am I afraid to lose? Go deeper. Ask, who do I believe I will become if I lose it? That answer may reveal the real attachment. Maybe you fear losing money because you believe you will become worthless. Maybe you fear losing someone because you believe you will become unlovable. Maybe you fear losing status because you believe you will become invisible. Maybe you fear letting go of pain because you do not know who you are without the story. And once you see that clearly, something opens. You realize the thing was never the entire prison. The identity built around the thing was. This is why freedom must begin before death. Release a little every day. Release the need to control every opinion. Release the need to prove yourself to people who misunderstood you. Release the old argument you keep repeating inside your head. Release the idea that one person must complete you. Release the belief that your value rises and falls with success. Release the version of yourself that only exists because of an old wound. Not everything at once, just a little, again and again, until the hand becomes softer, until the mind becomes quieter, until you can experience something beautiful without immediately fearing its loss, until you can love someone without turning love into ownership, until you can look at your own life and quietly understand, I am here, I am grateful, I will care deeply, but I cannot keep any of this forever. That is not sadness, that is clarity. And perhaps the deepest freedom is not reaching a place where you have nothing left to lose. Perhaps it is reaching a place where losing what is temporary can no longer make you forget what is deeper within you. Because one day, death will ask every human being to open their hands. Everything borrowed will be returned. Every title will become silent. Every possession will find another owner. Every role will come to an end. And when that moment arrives, the most important question may not be, how much did I collect? It may be, how much of what I collected became a chain inside me? Do not wait until the final moment to discover the answer. Look now, listen now, release now, because death may one day empty your hands. But wisdom teaches you how to free your heart while you are still alive. One day, everything you call mine will remain behind. Your possessions, your titles, your body, even your name will slowly become a memory. But the Vedic teachings leave us with a deeper question. What have you allowed to take root within you? So do not spend this life only collecting what death can take away. Use it to release what keeps your consciousness chained. Love deeply, live fully, but hold gently. Because true freedom is not leaving this world with empty hands. It is reaching the end with a heart that no longer needs to hold on. If this awakened something within you, subscribe to the Silent Vedas and comment one word below: release.